Welcome. Well, you're at home with Jim and Joy, and you are an important part of our EWTN family, and we are delighted that you have welcomed us into your home, and we certainly would love to wish you all a blessed Advent. Send us an email with your question or your comment to jimandjoy@ewtn.com. Well, today we're very excited to have Maria Gallagher with us. She has written a fantastic book on the glorious mysteries of the Rosary. Today, she's going to be sharing with us about how we can learn from and live out these beautiful mysteries in our own lives. And the beautiful book is called Glorious Encounters with Mary, a guide to living the mysteries of the Rosary. And this beautiful book is available at ewtnrc.com, and you could go out to Maria's website, mariavgallagher.com.
We had Maria on in 2023. It was just a delight to be with her, and we did Mercy's Power, her book on the pro-life movement, pro-life in her own life. And then she also has written another book on the joyful mysteries with Our Lady, Joyful Encounters with Mary. So now she's got another book in terms of the glorious mysteries and doing that with Our Lady. And she really goes beyond that as well in other encounters that you can have. The thing I love about Maria so much is that when she shares about Our Lady, it's so intimate, so personal. She really believes she's alive and walking with her through the mysteries. And as she says, living the mysteries, that these mysteries become alive. And John Paul II really emphasized praying the Rosary with Our Lady. And that's been a great help in my life to know that I'm praying along with Our Lady, the mysteries. Who could understand the mysteries better than Our Lady? And she wants to share with us. She wants to do that with us. She wants to be with us. But like our Lord himself, we have to welcome her. We have to be open to her. And I really pray that as we're in the first week of Advent, that you will encounter Our Lady in a new way, a beautiful way. And maybe you have questions or concerns about Our Lady. Believe it or not, we could have those. I had them. Maria had them as well. That she's just so beautiful. She's waiting for you. And that this could be a real surprise for you in the season of Advent and in Christmas. How close you're getting to your Lady, because she wants to bring you closer than ever before to her Son, Jesus Christ, and his Sacred Heart. We'll be right back. Plenty more to come. Please don't go away.
Welcome back. Well, we are very excited to have Maria Gallagher with us. She has written a fantastic book on the glorious mysteries of the Rosary. And today she's going to be sharing with us about how we can learn from and to live out these beautiful mysteries in our own lives. The beautiful entitled book is Glorious Encounters with Mary, a guide to living the mysteries of the Rosary. And this beautiful book is available at ewtnrc.com. And you can go out to Maria's website, mariavgallagher.com. Well, Maria, we are excited to have you. And you know, we've had you on before. You're a wonderful guest. And when you wrote a new book, we were like, well, let's have Maria back on. So tell our family what prompted you to write this beautiful book on the glorious encounters.
Well, you really have to go back to the pandemic a few years ago, a time that many of us don't want to remember. But the biggest influence in my life at that time was the fact that I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't go to the department store. I couldn't go to church. I couldn't go visit friends. So what was I going to do with that time? And I decided I was going to take that time to write a book. And the product of that was Joyful Encounters with Mary, because I thought that people had a shortage of joy in their lives. And I was thinking, what brings me joy? And it's that relationship with the Blessed Mother. So fast forward, that book comes out. It's a big hit. People want more. and they're looking for an exploration of other mysteries of the Rosary. And I thought about it, and it occurred to me that I wanted to tackle the glorious mysteries. And the reason for that was that I had been praying for 16 years for a specific prayer request. And after those 16 years, God answered my request in a most beautiful, glorious way. And I wanted to share that with other people. And it seemed to me that the glorious mysteries provide a great deal of hope to people. And in our world, hope is so sorely lacking at this time. So that caused me to go on this another adventure with the Blessed Mother. And that was the result, the Glorious Encounters with Mary, which is a way for the individual to see how their life mirrors that of the Blessed Mother. That the mysteries that the Blessed Mother went through, we go through in our lives to a certain extent. And we can become pals with the Blessed Mother. And that's really my aim. I want people to draw closer to Mary so that they will get closer to Jesus.
And have their lives transformed.
Absolutely.
Right? Because we, you know, in the course of living our lives, we do experience all of the mysteries of the Rosary. But be our suffering, be our joy, be however we're experiencing all of that, and to have that encounter and to know that she comes up right alongside of us and escorts us through that journey, and to say, keep your eyes on Jesus. You're going to get through this storm. You're going to get through this suffering. We know our faith always provides a resurrection. And sometimes in the midst of our suffering, that becomes the tsunami that overtakes us. And we can't get through the next day to get through another mystery of the Rosary, and to say, wait a minute, this isn't the end of the story. There's more. And Jesus is always giving us
Maria,
more.
Absolutely.
with the joyful encounters with Mary, who was your target audience? Because I think it was just for women you tailored it to?
Yes, the Joyful Encounters with Mary was basically an exploration of the joyful mysteries through the eyes of women. I talked about pregnancy, I talked about childbirth, a lot of the instances where women come to the fore. And in Glorious Encounters with Mary, I decided to widen the audience because there were so many men who were hungering for that relationship with the Blessed Mother, that strong relationship that would bring them to Jesus. And so this is a type of book that's appropriate for people from many different walks of life. For instance, you might be a regular devotee of the Rosary, or you may be somebody who's just curious about the Rosary and wants to know more. You may be somebody who's had a strong relationship with Mary since childhood, or you may be somebody who's really struggling with that relationship and wondering how to make it better. You may be married, single, going to school, having a job, retired. All of these people can benefit from this book because we all have those glorious encounters with the Lord. And I think far too often we dismiss them. And we think to ourselves, well, we have these heavy crosses that we have to bear. There's a lot of suffering and a lot of pain. And I don't want to minimize that pain. But there is joy, there is glory at the end of the road. And those are those little glimpses of heaven. I had a friend who once told me about gumdrops falling from heaven, these examples of God's love and mercy that shower down upon us. Mary experienced those in her life, and we can experience them as well.
Yeah, and then you focus in this book also on the resurrection. Tell us why the resurrection is so important to you in your journey.
I think that the resurrection really holds the key to our faith. I believe that Mother Teresa once said that you should never become so despondent that you forget the joy of the resurrection in your life. And a lot of us undergo resurrections throughout our lives. We may overcome illness or addiction or trauma or abuse. And we need to recognize that and celebrate it. I think far too often we don't take enough time to celebrate the milestones in life. And the glorious mysteries allow us to do that. And I saw it in my own family's journey where there was a resurrection at play with my mother. She and my father, unfortunately, were hit by a drunk driver when I was in college. And she suffered tremendously. She had a broken pelvis. She was in a wheelchair. And I saw her move from the wheelchair to the walker, to walking on her own, to driving to South Bend, Indiana to pick up my sister at college. So I saw the resurrection in her life. And I saw resurrection in my life when I overcame trauma and abuse and the wonderful things that God held for me. And I want to give that hope to other people. You may have been through the toughest of times in your life. You may be struggling right now, but know that Mary and Jesus are there to rescue you and to bring you to a higher plane.
Yes. And that, you know, that is the beauty of our faith journey. We know the cross that all of us have to take up. We all have crosses that Jesus says, pick up your cross and come and follow me. He doesn't tell us to choose our cross. It's, no, that's the cross you've been given. Now, pick that up, and I want to create something beautiful in your life and in your soul from that experience, if we allow him, or we curse the cross, right? We could do that too, and miss that whole opportunity for transformation and a resurrection. And so I love, you know, how you shared about that, just the witness of your mother, right? And the constitution and the fortitude that she had in her to fight, and that she wasn't going to stay laying down.
That's right.
Right? And she, like you said, how she travailed, she pressed on, she went through, but she got back up.
She got back up, and that's the experience that Mary had as well. I mean, think about it. She was a teenage girl who was pregnant and unmarried. What a tremendous cross that was. She was subject to the judgment of so many people, and yet she had a courageous spirit within her, and she fought. She fought for the life of her child, and consistently and passionately, and she prevailed. And I think that we can learn so many lessons from Mary and how she approached life as the mother of Jesus. And even though Mary was sinless, and even though she was the mother of God, we have something in common with her, that common bond of Jesus. And it's something that we can share with other people. And you know, the closer that you get to Mary, the closer you get to Jesus. She's really the light along the path. She illuminates the path to Christ. And we should always recognize that and honor her for it, especially this time of year in Advent.
Well, you're sharing good reasons for focusing upon Mary, the Blessed Mother of our Lord. And I think it's just a hindrance for some people, because they don't know why do we focus upon her? Is this to the detriment of our relationship with Jesus? And what you're saying is, did anyone love Jesus any more than Our Lady?
Right.
And that she's alive, and we need to act like she's alive.
Yes.
And to connect with her and say, share with us about these mysteries, how you see these mysteries, how you saw your son, how you lived out the mystery of being the mother of Jesus Christ. And you have an intimate relationship with Our Lady.
Yeah, it started from the very beginning because my mother named me Maria. And I knew from the start that my patron saint was the Blessed Mother. And I remember dressing up in first grade in a costume signifying Our Lady. And it was very clear to me from the start that my mother wanted me to have a devotion to Mary. My mother constantly had the rosary beads in her hand. She taught me the rosary. I owe everything to my mother and her devotion to Mary. And it's a devotion that I have lived out throughout my life. And those dark moments when I couldn't pray the rosary were really when I was farthest away from God, because I wasn't communicating with Mary. And when I took up the rosary again, life changed dramatically and in a most impressive and joyful fashion. And I want to share that with other people. You can have that relationship with Mary. She can be your cheerleader, your sister, your mother, your best friend, your confidant. She's there for you every day of the year.
And for some people, she's the stumbling block. For some people, maybe they didn't pray the rosary, or they weren't taught how to pray the rosary. I'm a convert. I had to teach myself how to pray the rosary. You know, and so it's just kind of like, oh, how necessary is it? You know, or they don't incorporate it in their lives, or, you know, you make a special consecration to the Blessed Mother as beautiful. That was life-changing in our lives. So why do you think she's just so misunderstood?
I think that there is so much confusion about her. I think that people often dismiss her. And I think people have this feeling about her as if she's just a statue and not a living, breathing human being. And they don't recognize her strength and her determination and her hope and the fact that she was a human being. She is a human being. She's there interceding for us at the throne of heaven. And I think that people get caught up in labels, and they think about the fact that they can't be like Mary, they can't be sinless. Well, none of us can be. But we can draw from her strength and from her courage and from her love. And I think that if you have a bad attitude about Mary, you just need to talk with her about it. And I know I love the devotion of Our Lady Undoer of Knots. And she undoes so many knots in my life. And I like to share that with other people. If you have something that you're really struggling with, know that Mary is there to help you and to assist you during any travail.
Well, it's so true in our lives, in our living lives, our natural living lives. Whenever something good happens or something bad happens, who's the person that we want to call? Our mother.
Absolutely.
Right? Or especially when you're sick. The only person, even when you're a grown woman, the only person I ever wanted to call was my mother. It was kind of like nobody really is going to care or understand just like my mother. And then when you have the absence of your earthly mother, you know, our heavenly mother can come in and fill that cavity, that void in our soul, and comfort us and be with us and aid us and assist us.
Yes, absolutely. I have seen in my own life where sadly my mother passed away, and yet I find that mothership through Mary, and she is there to bridge the gap for me. And so oftentimes I go to Mary and I say, I don't know what to do, Mary. Please help me with this struggle. And she is always there listening and praying and interceding for us. And I think that we need to be drawn closer to Mary in order to get to heaven. I think Mary is a gateway with Jesus to that promised land that we all cherish and we long for.
We're going to take a break at this point and hold you over for the final segment. Glorious Encounters with Mary, a guide to living the mysteries of the Rosary. Plenty more to come. We'll be right back. Please don't go away. Continuing our conversation with Maria Gallagher and her wonderful book, Glorious Encounters with Mary, a guide to living the mysteries of the Rosary. We have several minutes left here. And could you share with us about people who may have attempted to pray the Rosary and having difficulty with that? Any tips?
Sure. I think first of all, you need to take baby steps. You may have to start out with just one decade of the Rosary and then build up. Just like an athlete, you know, an athlete doesn't start out scoring touchdowns, right?
Right.
You have to build up to that.
Yes.
And I think that if you start out with a single decade a day and really try to focus, I think that it helps. I think you also have to keep in mind you're communicating with a person. You're not just reciting words. I know one time I was in the hospital and a priest came to me and asked me to pray with him. And I started reciting these prayers at a fast clip. And he said, no, 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 you have to slow down. And I wasn't really praying. I was saying words, I was mouthing it, but I wasn't praying from my heart. And that's what you really need to do. And I think that sometimes you need a scriptural reflection to help you with the Rosary. In my book, I delve into the different scriptural references that are associated with the different mysteries. I think that can help. And I think, again, contemplating on your own life and how your life intersects with Mary can help to connect. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that connection. And I think you also have to decide, who is Mary for you at this time in your life? I know that for me, Mary is that great intercessor, the one who stands at the throne and who looks deep into her son's eyes and says, help this person, help this daughter of the Father, help this son of the Father. And I think that when you communicate in that way, you're going to find your prayer life will improve. And it's just a matter of time and patience and perseverance. And when you put that all together, you've got a wonderful combination.
Well, you
beautifully
just
said.
described a beautiful encounter.
Yes.
I mean, that's what you have. You connect. There's this encountering that happens in body, mind, and spirit, which
Right.
is so beautiful if you allow yourself to go there. But you have to create time and space and place for that to be.
Yes.
And there are so many tools to help us also.
Yes, there are apps for your phone, there are CDs, there are all of the magnificent programs on EWTN. All of these can be aids for you in your prayer life.
Maria, thank you so much. Thank God you're back with us tomorrow to continue to unpack this book, Glorious Encounters with Mary, a guide to living the mysteries of the Rosary. And I just pray that your encounter with Our Lady at this time of the season of Advent, just the great work that the Lord has done in her life, and that you can have fellowship with her. She desires fellowship with you. She's waiting for you. And maybe she is looking into the eyes of Jesus and pointing to you and saying, they've run out of wine. This one doesn't have wine, Jesus. And the Lord can renew the wine in your life, the wine of his blood, the wine of his love for you. So be sure that Mary is a central part of your Advent season and this Christmas. God bless you. God bless all of your loved ones. You're never alone. You're an important part of this EWTN family. Bye now.